United States ships seem to be scaling back. USS Jason visit to Willemstad, Curaçao has been cancelled. They will not have an opportunity to be close to Venezuela shores. And at the same time, poor Prime Minister Kamla from Trinidad and Tobago is getting harassed by Caricom countries and an unfavorable public opinion domestically within Trinidad and Tobago, as they do not wish to provide easy access to imperialism. Trinidad and Tobago is supposed to be the only piece of land close to Venezuelan shores, because Curaçao is out of the question. USS ships are tripping all over the Caribbean, but they don't seem to be particularly close to Venezuelan shores, and it seems that they have not entered Venezuelan waters either, because if they had, Venezuela would already have reacted. The White House, the Department of State, the Department of Defense, and all other bureaucratic institutions stateside have not provided adequate information, and the rest of the world is starting to think that this is either a bluff or a very unorganized setting. The United States Congress has not been informed of this. A declaration of war against Venezuela at this time has not been processed, and independent journalists suggest that the recent drug seizure publicized from the Caribbean in recent days, that would be the only verifiable objective of the recently deployed US ships, actually corresponds to a series of seizures during different points of time rather than a single operation. Meanwhile, Venezuela is preparing efficiently. During the last few days, military arrangements are speeding up, and today, national television and radio has been deploying extensive coverage of lots of military units traveling into Western Venezuela and detailed descriptions of our army, our navy, our drones, our missiles, our militia, with their corresponding poetic propaganda wordings referring to Simón Bolívar, Hugo Chávez, Nicolás Maduro, imperialism, and such. The international community continues rallying with Venezuela. Even Hungary from Europe has deserted from the European Union and NATO and is now seeking refuge in the alliance of Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, and Venezuela. The Chinese press conference of Shanghai Summit, which will be in Tianjin, boasts a lot of presidents, prime ministers, and high-profile figures. In the Venezuelan case, representation will be provided by the President of National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, which will include dozens and dozens of countries. It is probably competing with Victory Day of Moscow, which was successfully celebrated during May, and this time Russia and China will show their drones. Many of them are brand new, and they are being made available for the Venezuelan military. Venezuela is boasting a new submarine drone, Manax, which is hard to detect from radars and is prepared to be deployed to perform lots of harm to any U.S. ship that dares to enter our territorial waters. Invasion of Panama, which is a much smaller country, required tens of thousands of Marines, while the number of Marines actually deployed are much less than 10,000. If they were to enter any Venezuelan shore, they might occupy a beach or a coastal town, but it would be unlikely that they could go much further unless the United States deploys additional millions and millions and millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of Marines willing to die for Donald Trump's desire to steal Venezuelan petroleum resources. Restoration of democracy is increasingly being seen as a horrendous situation because people in most parts of the world nowadays associate democracy with pointless political campaigns which promote infighting between substandard candidates who often don't know what to do except than getting into power to order around their citizens or subjects. And a few years later, an opposition party, if it comes into power, reverses everything made by the previous administration, which might explain why Western democracies have been unable to grow much in the last recent years, while countries that are supposed not to be democratic have been more efficient in their economic growth. Restoring democracy in Iraq, restoring democracy in Libya, restoring democracy in Afghanistan, and restoring democracy in so many other countries has only resulted in death. Venezuelans are getting prepared to fight a very long asymmetric war against the United States, which will have a tough diplomatic fight against the rest of the world. Even in the Organization of American States, to which Venezuela doesn't belong, they could not pass a TR, Treaty of Inter-American Reciprocity, which was actually made very long ago in the 1940s or 1950s or very, very long ago. That would have to pass 18 votes because the OAS has 34 members and the Coalition of the Willing only have United States, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Argentina, Paraguay, and Ecuador. It looks like they would need 10 additional countries to gain a majority. And as we have seen, Caricom is glued together with the exception of Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago, and they do not want any imperialism, especially since Venezuela continues sending agricultural products, agro-industrial supplies, and petroleum to ALBA countries. And the United Nations has been formally summoned by Venezuela so that the intention of war provided by the United States is properly addressed at the highest international level. Even India, which was traditionally somewhat separated to the rest of the BRICS, looks firmly committed to supporting Venezuela at this war issue because India is resenting having been applied 50% tariffs from the United States, and this Venezuelan occasion is providing a perfect excuse for Prime Minister Modi to revenge. Burkina Faso, with his mediatic president Traoré, is also supporting Venezuela, and it is expected that a sizable number of African countries will also support diplomatically Venezuela in our desire to repel United States invasion armies. Nicolas Maduro was supposed to be a horrible dictator, illegitimate, and he has suddenly become a superstar. Everybody is Googling about Nicolas Maduro, and he is now becoming a luminary of anti-imperialism and of national resistance, of David against Goliath. It is debatable whether Nicolas Maduro deserves or doesn't deserve such sudden increase in global popularity, but it is a matter of fact that Nicolas Maduro is becoming a global power figure, just as Volodymyr Zelensky was at the beginning of the Ukraine war. President Gustavo Petro of Colombia is getting harassed by the Colombian opposition and by the United States, and there are calls for tagging him a price tag just like Nicolas Maduro and having him arrested and charged with any kind of charges according to unverifiable United States jurisdictions. The binational area between Colombia and Venezuela, which is in the Catatumbo region between Zulia and Táchira states, is included in the places where the Venezuelan military is mostly being deployed with 15,000 troops right now, which would ensure extensive coordination with the military of Colombia so that both Colombian and Venezuelan militaries can fight together against United States invasion to South America. Caricom will have a meeting of heads of state within the next few weeks, and it will be interesting to see if Caricom will survive this impasse, because it seems that Kamla is determined to have her country invaded by the United States, regardless of Caricom's pledge to have a Caribbean of peace. I will not refer to Guyana today because I don't know much what has been happening there. I assume they are in the midst of their political campaign, and it will be probably safer just to wait out until results of presidential elections next Monday to continue my appreciations of whatever happens in that beautiful sister country that tends to have the same national interests than Venezuela, and which should eventually join a South American Union just like everybody else. United States public opinion will eventually be concerned on the financials of the current deployment of United States ships that were supposed to invade Venezuela a few days ago, but they seem to be wandering around the Caribbean Sea with no clear objective in sight, They were supposed to arrive to Curaçao and they were turned back, or they went from Norfolk to the Caribbean and back to Norfolk and now back to the Caribbean, and nobody knows exactly what they are up to. It is understandable that they could give a surprise. However, an invasion of Venezuela would need airplane carriers, which have not been deployed. Without an air force supporting the Navy and supporting ground troops and amphibious mobilization tools to get into shore, it is unclear how the United States would succeed in their invasion. And even if they get into Caracas and Nicolas Maduro flees to some other part of the country closer to the jungle, that will probably be it for the United States invasion. Venezuela has a huge mountain range between the coast and Caracas, with peaks of 7,000 feet. And Caracas is only at 3,000 feet. But you have to get there from sea level. And then to get from Caracas to the interior, you have to travel another mountain range and then get to the plains, which would probably be an easier part to have battles. Many of the battles of the independence were actually in the plains. But then south, next to the gold mines, there are jungle. And to get to Maracaibo, it seems highly unlikely now, or it would be extremely bloody, as the Maracaibo, western Venezuelan area, where a lot of the most productive oil fields are located, that is full of Venezuelan military right now. So it looks like coming in from Trinidad and Tobago would be the appropriate choice for the United States military, as Curaçao has been ruled out. But the diplomacy of the Caribbean is confronting very strongly Prime Minister Kamla. And of course, we can't wait to see what will be the show of force of China, North Korea, and Russia in Shanghai summit in Tianjin. And Venezuela expects to receive some of that brand new equipment so that it can be appropriately tested. Venezuela welcomes Iran support for our military and for our defense of our territorial integrity, and Venezuela's contribution to providing peace for the Middle East and Asia would be that countries that were traditional rivals, such as China, India, Iran, and Russia, will work together to defend Venezuela against the common enemy, which is the United States. We might be migrating into a new world order where most of the planet is glued together in the victorious alliance of Venezuela's friends against the decaying empires of the United States and Western Europe. Japan will have to make a choice. It seems that it already is, as we have heard that Japan has withdrawn a significant amount of United States treasuries that they no longer want. The market has been dumped with US treasuries formerly held by the Japanese, which is motivating an increase in interest rates in the United States. And it looks like Japan's economy has not been doing well during the last few decades, as it has relied too much on following the steps of the United States. So maybe Japan will warm up to the new winning alliance, although that would be more medium to long term. It seems that Japan is still too glued to the United States, but the first warning has been the sell-off of treasuries. There are not much news about France's ships that have been deployed into Martinique. After the initial news, there is not much coverage. The world is used to Emmanuel Macron being erratic and doing one thing one day and another thing another day. The French embassy continues promoting cultural activities in Caracas, business as usual. So it is not very worrisome, the presence of the French ships in Guadeloupe and Martinique, although we share maritime borders with them. But it would seem highly unlikely that they cross, because then the French embassy in Caracas would have to explain a lot. We haven't even heard of the French ambassador being summoned to the Foreign Ministry of Venezuela. French involvement in this dispute, in this territorial dispute between United States and Venezuela, well, no, it's not a territorial dispute. The borders are crystal clear. What I mean are incursions into Venezuelan waters by the United States, which could happen. But for the time being, there is no evidence that France is willing to cross a red line. Hopefully we will have peace, and it seems that there could be peace through strength, as Venezuela is showing much more strength than previously thought. The military is organized. The models and kinds of drones and missiles coming from Iran, China, and Russia are versatile. We are willing to engage in asymmetric war if necessary, although we would prefer to remain in peace. But we cannot tolerate United States wandering around the vicinity of our territorial waters for no reason, as the drug trafficking excuse is unwarranted. DEA and United Nations reports have clearly addressed that the countries of origin for drug trafficking are many Central and South American countries, none of which is Venezuela.